The alien forest was dark, cold, and full of danger, and every living creature knew it. The trees were tall like giant towers, their branches twisting in strange shapes, and glowing blue mist moved through the air like slow ghosts. In the middle of this silent nightmare, a young alien girl ran for her life. Her small feet hit the ground again and again as she gasped for breath. Her heart felt like it would explode. She did not look back, but she could hear them, the beasts. The sound of claws scraping against rock, the heavy breathing, the low growls. They were getting closer. Her name was Lyra. She was only 10. Scared, shaking, and alone. Her purple skin was covered with cuts from thorns, and her long silver hair stuck to her face with sweat and tears. She had been gathering fruit near a river when the beasts rose out of the shadows. Their red eyes glowed like burning coals, and their sharp teeth looked ready to tear anything apart. Lyra dropped everything and ran the moment she saw them. Now she felt the wind of their growls behind her as she sprinted through the forest. She reached a small alien village, hoping anyone would help her. She banged on the first metal door she saw. "Please, let me in," she cried. Her voice cracked with fear. She heard movement inside. Someone whispered, but then the lights turned off. The door stayed closed. She ran to another house, then a third. Everyone hid. Everyone refused to open the door. They all knew the beasts never stopped, never forgave, never spared. Helping her meant dying with her. No one was brave enough. Lyra's legs felt weak. She stumbled on a rock and fell hard to the ground. Her knees hit the dirt. Pain shot up her legs. She lifted her head slowly. Tears blurred her vision. She could see the shadows moving closer between the trees, glowing eyes staring at her with hunger. She pushed herself up and tried to run, but her legs trembled too much. She turned around and froze. 3 beasts stood in front of her, blocking her escape. They were as tall as humans, but thicker, stronger, covered in dark fur. Their long claws dug into the ground, drool dripping from their mouths. They growled low, ready to jump at her. Lyra screamed. She squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for pain. But then she heard something strange. Not claws, not growls, footsteps. Calm, slow, steady. A human explorer named Ethan had been walking near the village, studying plants and stones for his research. He heard Lyra's scream and rushed toward the sound without thinking. Now he stood at the edge of the clearing. Watching the scene in front of him, he saw the small girl on the ground, shaking, and the beasts closing in. He felt his stomach twist. He knew he should run. Humans were strong, but these beasts were killers. Everyone else refused to help for a reason, but something inside Ethan refused to let him turn away. Maybe it was human instinct. Maybe it was compassion. Maybe it was simple anger at seeing a child about to die. He tightened his grip on his stun baton. His heart pounded, but his feet moved forward, step by step. Lyra opened her eyes when she heard the sound of someone walking toward her. She expected another beast, but instead she saw a tall human with dark hair, a serious face, and calm eyes. He walked past her and stood between her and the monsters. Like a shield, she could not understand why no alien ever helped her. Why would a human? Ethan's voice was steady, even though fear pulled at his chest. "Stay behind me," he said softly. "I won't let them harm you." The beasts growled louder. Confused by this strange human, they circled him slowly, ready to attack. Their red eyes shone with hunger, their muscles tensed. Ethan's breath grew heavy, but he did not step back. He planted his feet firmly in the dirt, his stun baton glowing bright. Lyra watched him with wide, tear-filled eyes. She had never seen bravery like this. The alien village had people, soldiers, hunters, but none of them dared to help her. And yet here was one human, alone, standing against monsters to save someone he didn't even know. The beasts lowered their bodies, preparing to jump. Ethan gripped his weapon tighter. The forest fell silent. Even the wind stopped moving. Lyra held her breath. Ethan scanned the beasts, waiting for the first one to strike. Then one beast leaped with a roar, flying straight at Ethan. and the world seemed to freeze in that moment. The fate of the alien girl now rested on the courage of one human who refused to walk away. Asterisk. The beast flew through the air like a black shadow, its claws stretched forward, ready to tear Ethan apart. But Ethan did not run. He did not even blink. Instead, he braced himself and swung his stun baton with all his strength. The glowing weapon crackled with blue energy as it hit the beast's side. A loud burst of electricity shot out. The creature screamed and crashed to the ground, shaking. But Ethan knew this was only the beginning. Two more beasts growled and stepped forward. They were angrier now, more dangerous. Their red eyes glowed brighter as they watched the human protect the small alien girl. No one on this planet had ever done that before. Humans were rare here, and most stayed far from trouble. The beasts did not understand why this one was standing in their way. Lyra, still shaking, hid behind a fallen log. Her wide purple eyes were fixed on Ethan. She could not believe what she was seeing. No one had ever put themselves in danger for her. She whispered softly, "Why is he helping me?" But no answer came. Only fear and hope mixed inside her heart. Ethan stepped back slightly, not out of fear but to place himself fully in front of Lyra. His legs shook a little, not because he wanted to flee, but because he understood exactly how deadly these creatures were. He had read about them in scientific reports. They were fast, smart, and hunted in groups. One human against three beasts was madness, but one terrified child behind him made running impossible. The second beast suddenly lunged. Faster than the first, Ethan barely had time to block the attack. He raised his baton, and sparks exploded. As claws hit the weapon, the force pushed Ethan backward, his boots sliding in the dirt. The beast roared in his face, hot breath hitting him like fire. Ethan gritted his teeth and shoved it away before delivering a strong electric hit to its chest. It fell back but didn't drop. It shook its head, stunned, but still alive. The third beast moved around them quietly, waiting for the right moment. It watched like a predator studying its target. Ethan saw it from the corner of his eye. He knew if it attacked at the same time as the second one, he might not be able to stop both. He needed a plan, but he had no time. The danger was too close, Lyra. He whispered without turning. "When I tell you to run, you run straight to the village gates. Don't stop, don't look back." "But," she whispered shakily. "Trust me," he said. She swallowed hard and nodded. Even though tears ran down her cheeks, she didn't want to leave him. But she also didn't want him to die because of her. The second beast roared and charged again. Ethan focused on it. Knowing the third would strike soon, he dodged left, swung his baton, and sent another electric wave blasting into the beast's shoulder. It screamed and fell to one knee. But that was when the third beast struck. It launched itself like a missile. From behind Ethan, claws ready to rip into his back, Lyra gasped, her heart stopping. "Ethan!" She screamed. Ethan spun at the last second, but he was too slow. The beast's claws grazed his arm, tearing through his suit and skin. Pain shot through him like fire. He fell to one knee, gripping his arm tightly. The beast stood over him, ready to kill him. But Ethan did something unexpected, something that shocked even Lyra. He stood up again, slowly but firmly, even though blood dripped from his injury. He raised his baton with his good arm and stared at the beast with fearless eyes. "I'm not leaving her," he said, his voice steady despite the pain. "If you want her, you go through me." The beasts paused, confused. No animal or alien had ever seen such courage on this world. This human should have run, should have begged for his life, should have given up. But he didn't. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She stared at Ethan as if he were a legend, a hero from old stories. She felt something new, a spark of faith. Maybe humans were different. Maybe humans were something stronger than she had ever known. The beasts growled again and prepared for a final attack. Ethan tightened his grip on the baton. Blood dripped down his arm, his legs shook, but his eyes were filled with fire. He was tired, wounded, outnumbered, but he would not move. He would not break. The forest fell silent once more as all three beasts lowered themselves for the kill. Ethan braced himself, ready to fight until his last breath. But just then, something moved in the trees above them. Sharp eyes watched, silent as shadows. Someone or something else had been watching the entire time. Hidden figures shifted between the branches, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Ethan did not know yet, but he and Lyra were not alone. The real danger had just begun. The air turned heavy and still, as if the whole forest was holding its breath. Ethan stood wounded, breathing hard, gripping his glowing baton with his good arm. Blood dripped slowly from the cut on his shoulder, but he refused to step back, refused to let fear stop him, in front of him. The three beasts circled like hungry shadows, their red eyes fixed on him and the scared alien girl behind him. Lyra crouched low behind the fallen log, her small hands shaking. She watched Ethan with wide, terrified eyes. She wanted to shout, to warn him, to help him, but she had nothing, no weapons, no strength, only fear and a hope that felt too small for the danger they faced. She whispered to herself, "Please don't die. Please don't die because of me." The beasts growled in rhythm, moving closer. Each step they took made the ground vibrate under Ethan's boots. They were confident now. They smelled his blood. They knew he was wounded. They were ready to finish the hunt. Ethan tightened his grip on the baton, ready to swing the moment they jumped. But then something strange happened. Ethan felt a presence. He sensed eyes watching them from above. Not beast eyes, not glowing red, something else. The branches rustled, but not from the wind. He looked up quickly. His heart skipped a beat. There were shapes in the trees, tall, thin, silent shapes. Hidden hunters with dark masks and sharp weapons blended into the shadows. They had been watching the entire fight without making a sound. Ethan didn't know who they were, but he knew one thing. They were not here to help him. They were waiting for something. The beasts did not notice them. They only cared about the kill. The one Ethan shocked earlier let out a furious roar and charged. Ethan raised his baton, pain shooting down his arm, but he swung hard. Electricity sparked. The beast howled and stumbled back. But the other two rushed in at the same time. Ethan dropped to the ground just in time. A claw sliced through the air above his head. Missing by inches, dirt flew as one beast skidded past him. The second snapped its jaws at his leg. Ethan rolled away, panting. He knew he was getting slower. Every movement hurt. His body complained loudly. But he forced himself up again. Lyra cried out, seeing him fall, "Ethan, no!" But he looked back at her and shook his head. "Stay down. I'm not done." The beasts regrouped, their growls echoing through the forest. They started pacing, trying to trap him again. They were smarter than normal animals. They had hunted for years. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He couldn't keep dodging forever. The beasts knew it. He knew it from the trees above. A whisper passed between the hidden hunters, like wind through steel. One of them pulled out a curved blade. Another aimed a strange energy spear. They did not move yet, but they were ready. Ethan knew danger was coming from two sides now. Beasts in front, and something worse above. The largest beast suddenly launched forward again. Ethan raised his baton, but the impact was too strong. It slammed into him, throwing him backward. He hit the ground hard, pain exploding across his back. The baton fell out of his hand. Landing several feet away, he gasped, trying to breathe. But the beast was already standing over him, drool dripping from its fangs. Lyra screamed and tried to run to him, but the other beasts blocked her path. She froze, shaking, tears running down her face. Everything inside her wanted to rush to Ethan, but fear locked her in place. The beast above Ethan lowered its massive head, about to bite. Ethan braced himself, trying to reach for his weapon, but his arm wouldn't move fast enough. He stared at the beast with fierce eyes, refusing to accept death, refusing to fail the girl he promised to protect. And then, a sudden whip-crack sound cut through the air. The beast jerked, confused, Something shiny was wrapped around its neck, a metal rope. Before it could react, the rope tightened and yanked the beast backward with brutal force. Ethan rolled aside, breathing hard. He looked up and saw a masked hunter in the tree pulling the rope with ease. The hidden hunters had finally moved. Ethan didn't know why they interfered. They weren't helping him. They were helping themselves. He sensed danger even deeper. Now but the beasts turned toward the trees, growling at the new threat. The hunters leaped down with silent steps, forming a circle around Ethan and Lyra. The beasts roared again, ready to fight both human and hunters. Ethan climbed to his feet, weak but determined. The forest was about to explode into chaos once more, and Ethan realized something chilling. These hunters weren't here to save the girl. They were here because of her, and he had just stepped into something far bigger than he ever imagined. The hunters moved like shadows, landing silently on the forest floor around Ethan and Lyra. Their tall bodies were covered in dark armor made of bone and metal. Their masks had long markings that glowed faintly in the dark. They held sharp weapons curved blades, spears, and ropes that crackled with strange energy. The beasts growled loudly at this new threat. But the hunters didn't flinch. Ethan stood weakly, one hand gripping his injured arm. He felt trapped between two dangers. On one side, the beasts circling with hunger. On the other, the masked hunters watching him with cold, unreadable eyes. He didn't know who they were, but he knew one thing: they had not come here by accident. They had been waiting for the right moment, and now they had stepped out of the shadows. Lyra stared at the hunters with wide, terrified eyes. She recognized their armor. She had heard stories, she whispered. The Shade Clan. Her voice trembled as if speaking the name gave her fear a shape. Ethan glanced back at her. Who are they? He whispered, trying to understand the new danger. Before Lyra could answer, one of the hunters stepped forward. His voice was deep and sharp. The girl belongs to us, he said, pointing his spear at Lyra. Stand aside, human. Ethan's jaw clenched, his whole body tensed, even though it hurt. He moved slightly in front of Lyra once more. She's a child, he said firmly, and she's terrified. What do you want with her? Another hunter laughed a cold, cruel sound. The beasts chase her for a reason, he said. She carries a curse. All who protect her die. His glowing eyes stared at Ethan through the mask. Leave her, or join the others who fell before you. Lyra shook uncontrollably. Tears fell from her eyes. She whispered, I didn't want any of this. I didn't do anything. Ethan felt his chest tighten at the sound of her small, broken voice. He didn't know what curse they were talking about, didn't know what she had done, but he knew she was just a scared child, and he wasn't going to hand her over to killers. The hunters spread out around them, forming a circle that cut off every escape path. The beasts backed away slightly, sensing danger from their new enemies. The air was thick with tension. Every creature in the forest seemed to be waiting for the first strike. Ethan took a deep breath. I'm not moving, he said. If you want her, you'll have to go through me. His arm throbbed with pain. His legs felt heavy, but his voice was strong. The hunters looked at him with annoyance, confusion, and a hint of respect. They were not used to outsiders refusing their orders. The leader of the hunters stepped forward. His mask was decorated with long, sharp lines, marking him as someone important. You are foolish, he said. This girl is dangerous. Her very presence brings death. He pointed at the beasts. They hunt her, not you, yet you fight for her. Why? Ethan tightened his grip on his baton. Because she is a child, he said simply, and because no one else stood up for her. His gaze hardened. Humans don't abandon the weak. The hunters murmured among themselves, their voices low and sharp. They didn't understand such thinking. Their clan believed only in strength, only in survival. A child with a curse was seen as a burden, a danger, something to be left for the beasts. But this human, he stood for her without hesitation, even wounded, even outnumbered. The leader raised his weapon. Then you have chosen death, he said. We will take her, and you will fall before us. The hunters took fighting stances, their weapons glowing in the dim light, but before they could strike, the beasts attacked first. All three roared and charged at the circle. Their hunger had grown too strong to wait. The ground shook under their heavy steps. Their eyes burned bright, their jaws wide open, ready to kill anything in their path. The hunters turned quickly, surprised. Their weapons flashed through the air, but the beasts were faster, stronger, driven by instinct and fury. They crashed into the hunters, sending two of them rolling across. The ground, dirt exploded, trees shook, the forest erupted with chaos. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her behind him. "Stay close," he said. The noise, the screams, the roars, it was all too much. But he forced himself to focus. The battle around them grew wild. The hunters fought hard, but the beasts were even more violent. Lyra clung to Ethan, tears dripping onto his sleeve. "They're not here to save me," she whispered shakily. "They want to kill me." Because of the mark on my arm, she pulled back her sleeve to show him a glowing symbol, strange and ancient. Ethan stared at it, trying to understand. But there was no time. A beast broke through the fighting circle and turned toward them. Its eyes locked on Lyra. Ethan stepped forward again, raising his baton, refusing to let fear stop him, refusing to step aside. And in that moment, Ethan understood something important. This wasn't just about beasts or hunters. This was about a deeper truth hidden on this planet, a truth tied to Lyra, to her mark, to her danger. And he was now part of it, whether he wanted it or not. The forest exploded with chaos. The beasts roared, the hunters shouted, and the sound of weapons hitting flesh echoed like thunder. Ethan held Lyra tightly behind him, his baton glowing weakly from the fight. He was wounded, tired, and surrounded. But he refused to move even one step away from her. The beast that had broken through the fighting circle slowly approached them. Its breath came out in hot, heavy growls. Its claws dug into the dirt with every step. Lyra trembled behind Ethan, gripping his arm with shaking fingers. "Ethan, it's coming," she whispered, fear choking her voice. "I see it," Ethan said softly. His voice was calm, almost steady, even though his heart pounded in his ears. He raised his baton once again. It felt heavier than before. His injured arm throbbed, but he forced himself to stand straight. The beast lowered its head, ready to leap. Just then, a hunter jumped in front of them, blocking the creature. His curved blade slashed across the beast's face in one fast motion. The creature howled and spun toward the hunter, forgetting Ethan for a moment. The two began to fight, snarling and striking. Ethan took a step back, pulling Lyra with him, but the leader of the hunters turned his masked head toward Ethan. "You do not understand," he said sharply. "She is marked. That symbol on her arm invites death. Our laws demand she be removed." Ethan glared at him. "She's a child," he shouted over the noise. "She didn't choose this mark." His voice shook with anger. "And letting her die won't fix anything." The leader's mask tilted, studying him. "Humans," he said coldly. "You speak of mercy, you speak of protection. But mercy creates weakness. Protection creates danger." Ethan stepped forward. "Despite the pain in his body, courage isn't weakness," he said firmly. "Protecting someone who can't protect themselves isn't danger. It's the right thing to do." His voice carried louder now. Even hunters fighting nearby turned their heads slightly, listening. The leader didn't respond immediately. He watched Ethan like someone seeing a strange creature for the first time. "You risk your life for her." "Why?" he finally asked. His voice wasn't loud now, just confused. Curious, Ethan looked back at Lyra, her tear-stained face, her shaking body, her small hands clutching his sleeve. He felt a protective fire burn inside him, stronger than pain, stronger than fear. "Because she deserves to live," he said. "Because someone has to stand up for her." Lyra stared at him in disbelief. No one, not even her own people, had ever spoken for her like this. Her eyes filled with tears. Not of fear, but of hope, of gratitude. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "Ethan, "Thank you." But the moment of calm broke as another beast crashed through the bushes. Roaring wildly, its eyes locked straight on Lyra. The symbol on her arm glowed brightly. Reacting to the beast's presence, Ethan grabbed his baton again, trying to stand with full strength, but his legs trembled. The leader of the hunters watched him struggle. Something inside the masked warrior shifted. For the first time he saw a human with no armor, no clan, no backup stand alone against death simply because he refused to abandon someone weaker. Another hunter shouted, "Leader! We need support. The beasts are too many." The leader's eyes narrowed. He made a decision in that moment, one that shocked his entire clan. "We fight beside the human," he commanded. His voice echoed like thunder. The hunters froze for a second, surprised, but they obeyed, one by one. They formed a defensive ring around Ethan and Lyra, their weapons glowing brighter, their stances firm. Ethan blinked, confused. "You're helping us?" The leader nodded once. "Your courage challenges our beliefs," he said. "Perhaps strength is not only in killing, but in protecting." The beasts roared and charged again. This time the hunters and Ethan fought together, the forest lit with sparks, energy blasts, and glowing blades. A hunter tossed Ethan a small shield generator. He barely caught it, but activated it. A faint energy field formed around him and Lyra. Ethan fought with renewed strength. Hunters fought with fierce discipline. Together they pushed the beasts back, strike by strike, blow by blow, until finally the last beast fell to the ground. With a heavy thud, silence returned to the forest. Broken only by heavy breathing and crackling leaves, the hunters lowered their weapons. Ethan dropped to one knee, exhausted. Lyra rushed to his side, holding his arm gently. You didn't leave me," she whispered. Ethan smiled weakly. "I told you. Humans don't walk away." The leader approached him slowly, removing his mask for the first time, revealing sharp but thoughtful eyes. "Human Ethan," he said. "You have changed our clan today." He looked at Lyra, and perhaps her fate. But deep inside Lyra's glowing mark, a faint flicker pulsed, a warning of something greater still coming. Something the beasts and hunters feared, and something Ethan had no idea existed. The forest slowly fell quiet after the last beast collapsed. But the silence did not bring peace. Instead, it felt heavy, tight, full of warning. Ethan sat on the ground, breathing hard. His injured arm pressed against his chest, sweat dripping down his face. Lyra stayed close beside him, her small hands holding his sleeve as if afraid he might disappear if she let go. The hunters moved around the clearing, checking the dead beasts, their weapons still glowing. They were tired too, but they seemed uneasy, like they knew something worse was coming. The leader stood still, his mask hanging at his side, his sharp eyes locked on Lyra's glowing mark. Ethan noticed the look. "What is it?" he asked. His voice was low, tired but alert. The leader took a slow breath. "The beasts were only the first wave," he said. "When the mark shines this bright, it calls stronger creatures." He pointed at Lyra's arm. "Something ancient is waking." Lyra pulled her arm close to her chest, scared. "I don't want it," she whispered. "I wish it would stop." Ethan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. "You're not alone." But before anyone could respond, the ground trembled beneath them. Dust rose from the earth. Trees shook. Small stones jumped on the dirt, as if something massive was approaching from deep underground. The hunters immediately took defensive positions, their weapons raised. "It's coming," one of them whispered. A deep roar rolled through the forest, heavier and angrier than anything before. It wasn't like the beasts they had fought. This roar sounded old, powerful, hungry. Lyra held Ethan tightly, trembling uncontrollably. "It's the Devourer," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Ethan didn't know the name, but the terror in her voice told him everything he needed to know. The ground cracked open near the far edge of the clearing. Broken roots and dirt flew into the air. something enormous climbed out slowly. Its shadow covered the trees, its form rising higher and higher. A massive creature stepped into view, taller than the village walls. Its skin was black and stone-like, its mouth wide with razor teeth. Glowing blue fire burned deep inside its throat. Its eyes, huge, bright, and focused, looked straight at Lyra. The hunters froze. Some stepped back in fear. The leader clenched his jaw. "It's been centuries since one of these woke," he said. "The girl's mark. She is its target." Ethan forced himself to stand, his legs shaking. "I won't let it take her," he said. His voice was pained but strong. The leader looked at him with a mixture of disbelief and respect. The devourer stepped forward, each step shaking the ground. It opened its mouth, releasing a low roar that bent the air around it. Lyra screamed and covered her ears. Ethan pulled her behind him, even though the creature was large enough to swallow both of them in one bite. "We cannot defeat it alone," the leader said sharply. "Human, your courage brought us together earlier. Guide us again." Ethan swallowed, fear burning in his stomach. He looked at the hunters, dozens of them ready to fight but unsure how. He looked at the devourer, a mountain of teeth and darkness. Then he looked at Lyra, clutching his sleeve, trusting him completely. "All right," Ethan said, steadying his breathing. "We need strategy, not fear." The hunters leaned closer, waiting for orders. Ethan pointed at the trees. "Use the high ground, surrounded from above." He pointed at the ground fighters. "Don't attack its legs, aim for the joints behind them. Slow it down." He turned to the leader. "And we need to draw its attention away from Lyra." The leader nodded. "Slowly, who will do that?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "I will." Lyra grabbed his hand with panic. "No. You'll die." Ethan knelt in front of her, ignoring the pain. "Hey," he whispered gently. "I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere." He touched her cheek softly. "I promised I'd protect you." Lyra's eyes overflowed with tears. "But you're hurt. That never stopped a human before," Ethan said with a small smile. The devourer roared again, shaking leaves from the trees. The hunters climbed into the branches, forming a silent ring. The leader prepared his strongest weapon, energy crackling around it. Ethan stepped forward. Alone, facing the giant creature, he grabbed a flare from his belt and lit it. A bright red light filled the clearing. Ethan waved it high, shouting, "Over here. Come on, you monster. Leave her alone." The devourer's massive head turned toward him instantly. It roared and charged, shaking the earth. Lyra screamed his name. The hunters got ready, and Ethan ran straight into the path of the ancient beast, risking everything to buy the girl one more chance at life. Because that's what humanity does. Stand tall when everyone else runs. Ethan ran into the open clearing with the glowing red flare in his hand. His breath came in sharp bursts. His legs hurt with every step, and blood still dripped from his wounded arm. But he didn't stop. He waved the flare high, shouting again and again, "Here. I'm right here. Leave her alone." The devourer's enormous head turned fully toward him. Its fiery blue eyes locked onto the lone human. The ground trembled as it stepped forward, each footfall sending shockwaves through the soil. The creature roared, a deep sound that shook the trees and made the air feel heavy. Lyra watched from behind a fallen log, tears flowing down her cheeks. She reached out toward Ethan, even though he was far away. "Please come back," she whispered, her voice cracking, but Ethan did not look back. He didn't dare. If he saw her face now, his heart might falter, and he couldn't afford that, not when her life depended on him. The hunters moved silently into their positions, hidden across tree branches. Their weapons glowed as they waited for Ethan's signal. The leader stood closest to the ground, energy spear ready. His eyes followed every movement the human made. Ethan slowed as he reached the center of the clearing. The devourer towered over him like a living mountain. Its shadow swallowed him completely. The creature bent its massive head toward him, breathing hot air that smelled of burned earth. "All right," Ethan whispered, his voice shaking but steady. "Come on, The devourer opened its huge mouth, blue fire glowing deep inside. It roared and lunged forward to crush Ethan in one bite. Now! Ethan shouted. The hunters launched their attack at the exact same moment. Energy ropes flew down from the treetops, wrapping around the creature's limbs. Spears shot into the joints behind its legs. Crackling blue nets tightened around its arms. The devourer roared in anger and pain, thrashing violently, but the hunters held firm. Ethan threw the flare into its mouth. The creature roared even louder, blinded by the blast of light. But the devourer was far from defeated. With one massive shake, it broke two energy ropes. Hunters were thrown from the trees. Landing hard on the ground, several cried out in pain. The creature raised one huge arm and smashed it into the earth, sending dirt exploding everywhere. Ethan was knocked off his feet. He rolled across the ground. Dust filling his lungs, he coughed and pushed himself up, dizzy but determined. The leader rushed past him, spear glowing bright. "Human!" he shouted. "We must strike together." Ethan grabbed his fallen baton, charging it with the last bit of power. "On my signal," he said. His voice cracked, but he stood tall. The devourer roared again and lifted its massive foot to crush everyone inside the clearing. Ethan stepped forward, ignoring his shaking legs, ignoring the fear squeezing his chest, ignoring the pain shooting through his body. He whispered to himself, "For Lyra. For all of us." He leaped toward the creature's leg and drove his baton deep into the glowing joint behind its knee. The weapon exploded with bright blue electricity. The devourer screamed and dropped to one knee, shaking the earth. "Now!" Ethan shouted again. The leader lunged forward, his spear glowing like lightning. He drove it straight into the creature's chest. Blue energy blasted outward like a shockwave. The devourer roared, its body trembling, cracks forming along its stone-like skin. Hunters fired all their remaining energy at once, arrows, blades, ropes, all striking the creature in a final storm of light. The devourer roared one last time, a sound full of rage and defeat. And then, its huge body collapsed, shaking the ground for the last time. Dust and blue sparks filled the air, and then silence fell across the forest. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. His whole body trembled. Lyra ran to him, tears streaming down her face. She threw her arms around him and held him tightly. "You came back. You came back," she cried. Ethan smiled weakly. "Told you. Not going anywhere." The leader approached them slowly, his mask hanging at his side. His voice was calm and heavy with respect. "Human Ethan," he said, "you fought like a warrior of legends. You protected the Mark Child even when our own clans would not." He knelt, bowing his head. "From this day forward, she will not be hunted. She will be protected under our clan's shield." Lyra wiped her tears, looking up at Ethan. "You saved me, even when no one else did." Her voice trembled. "Why?" Ethan looked at her gently. "Because humans don't walk away," he said softly. "Not when someone needs us." The hunters bowed, the forest finally calm, the devourer defeated. Lyra safe, Ethan alive but exhausted. The danger had ended, but something new had begun. Lyra took Ethan's hand, her eyes full of trust and warmth. "You're my guardian now," she whispered. Ethan smiled, tired but proud. "And I always will be." Together, they walked out of the forest, the hunters surrounding them like a new family. And in that moment, one truth echoed across the alien world.